The epee event is a direct descendant of the duel, both in weapon and in spirit. It is also the easiest to understand. The epee sword weighs about 1.5 pounds. The entire length, including the handle, is 90 centimeters or 3 feet. Scoring is similar in principle to the duel, where it was not always necessary to kill your opponent. Simply drawing his blood was often sufficient to uphold one's honor. Therefore, in modern epee, the entire body from head to toe is a valid target, including the vulnerable fencing arm. The object is simple enough. Hit your opponent before he hits you. The epee is a thrusting weapon. Therefore, a hit can only be made with the tip of the blade. The competition strip is 2 meters wide and 14 meters long. Actual scoring is done electronically. The scoring box is connected to 2 spring-loaded drums, one at each end of the strip. Each fencer is fitted with a body wire. One end comes out the back of the jacket and plugs into the wire from the drum. The other end runs inside the sleeve of the sword arm and is plugged into the sword. A very thin wire runs along a groove in the blade to the spring-loaded tip. When a hit greater than 750 grams, or about 1.5 pounds of force, is made, the electrical circuit is completed and a light and buzzer register the hit. A hit made by one fencer automatically shuts off his opponent's electrical circuit, so that only the first hit will register. But if 2 fencers hit at the same time, or within 1/25th of a second, both hits count. 19-year-old Marc Chouinard and 19-year-old Alain Côté are both members of the Musketeers Fencing Club in Montreal. They are also the 2 best epee fencers in this country.
If somebody asked me, like I've had a lot of people tell me, so fencing, this seems to be just a game. This isn't a sport like basketball or hockey. You don't have to be an athlete, to be a fencer. I'd tell him that he has to have legs, because you're always in a crouched position. Your leg muscles are always taking it all because your legs aren't straight. And you have to move forward and backward without unfolding your knees. You have to keep low to keep balanced. And I guess reflexes.
Reflexes, yeah, for sure. That's the main part. You have to be quite fast to stop everything that's coming on you, and quite fast to riposte if you want to have a touch, It's intellectual too. You have to have a good apropos, we call it in French. It's tempo. And you have to decide a lot of things in bouts, important things like Canadian championships or world championships.
Marc Chouinard became the 1983 Canadian Senior Epee champion by defeating another teammate, 27-year-old Jacques Cardin. But earlier this year, Chouinard distinguished himself on the highest international level at the World Junior Under-20 Championships in Budapest. He placed second, losing the World Junior title by 1 point in the last few seconds of the final, an accomplishment never before achieved by a Canadian fencer. Along with his own abilities, Chouinard has another strong asset in 37-year-old Jean-Pierre Lecause. Born in Africa and raised in France, Lecause has been coach of the Musketeers Club in Montreal for 10 years. He has often spent thousands of dollars of his own money so that his athletes can travel and compete in important tournaments. He is dedicated to developing world champions.
That Chouinard, he has begun fencing at 15 years old, and he has only 5 years of fencing. He grew up very fast in fencing. And what it helped, first, when he sees something new in the world or on the street, he come to me and say, I want to practice that. And we are always talking about the fencing, what we could do to ameliorate. We find some new movements at the lesson, and so and so. And the second thing it helps for him is he has a very strong objective. He said, I want to be world champion.
As we watch Jacques Cardin and Marc Chouinard in their title bout, remember, fencing is often a lightning-fast and complex sport. Even an experienced fencer will have difficulty following the action as a spectator. Therefore, it is important to concentrate on one fencer at a time. In this case, Chouinard is on the right. Chouinard's teammate, the number 2 épée fencer in the country, Alain Côté, finished 6th here at the Canadian Championships. He offers some insights into the psychological aspects of épée.
You have to be cool, first of all. I think you really have to be able to think in the heat of the action. You're against him in a contest of speed, in a contest of reflexes, also in a contest of physical and psychological strength. This weapon we're fencing is psychological warfare. You can impress your opponent by just bluffing, not even moving. He loses confidence because you're just bluffing him, especially if you're in the lead. Most of the time, anyway, against certain opponents, you just have to be patient. I guess you could call it the chess game of sports.
The épée fencer must often play a cautious waiting game. A safe distance must be maintained to avoid risk to the vulnerable parts of the target, the arm and the foot. He will try to control his opponent's blade, to wrap it up, and then thrust his forward with lightning-fast precision. His style is classic French, small, controlled movements, and an economy of body motion. At the highest level of proficiency, the sword is controlled primarily by the fingers and not with the wrist or arm. The running attack, more common in foil and saber, is often a sign of frustration in épée. Jacques Cardin falls victim to Chouinard's patient technique. Finally, after finishing 2nd for 2 years in a row, 19-year-old Marc Chouinard wins his first Canadian senior épée title.
À 4-4, là, c'est deux quelque chose. Là, j'ai dans le ciel des flèches que j'ai fait, ça commence bien. La première, je le savais, hein, j'étais certain. La dernière, tu sais, je me plais.
You say the same thing in English to each other.
Come on, you go. No, we were just saying that the bout was okay till 4-4, and then it took a few years. At 4-4, I was blocking against him because I didn't find anything to do. But at 4-4, I decided to be a little bit more aggressive. I made 2 attacks. And after he came back, but maybe too late.
It started off very slow, I noticed, too.
Yeah, but we fence each other always at the club. We're the same club. And we fence each other 2 hours per day.
That's a good achievement, anyway.